Hello and welcome to Sports Mag. I'm Megan Barquette.
And I'm Joey Prechtel. We have a great show for you today, so let's get started.
Our men's basketball team went on the road this week to the Pacific Northwest.
The Buffs had their hearts broken when the Huskies came to Boulder with Andrew Andrews hitting a buzzer beater. Let's see if the Buffs could break some hearts this time. Now, last time the Buffs traveled to Seattle, they had Spencer Dinwiddie on the court. A lot has changed since then, but here we have Collier finding an open Xavier Talton. And Talton had 10 points off the bench and increased the Buffs' leader to 14. Buffs rolling to open it up. And then we have Gordon finding Josh Scott down low. Patient big man gets the 2 points to go, increases the lead to 11 at that point with the first half winding down. And Scott's not done yet. John Hopkins drives in, finds Josh Scott, who slams it down. And the Buffs are going to lead by 13 going into halftime. Scott had 21 points and 9 rebounds.
And what a strong first half they did have. Going into the second half, it was a homecoming game for Fletcher, showing off the friends and fam what he had to give for Tacoma. Booker took 3 misses, but it was okay because Xavier Johnson came off the rebound, put it in for 2 and of his 11 points. Booker opens up the defense and passes it to Hopkins, who, sinks it. And can we see that one more time? Oh, I think we can. There we go. What a nice little play there. And this is the second round win for the Buffs. Colorado won that game 64-47. Josh Scott had a great game with 21 points and 9 rebounds. And for the Huskies, Andrew Andrews came out with 20 points and 6 rebounds.
Last Sunday was senior night, and it would be Booker's final home game of the regular season.
The Buffs took on the Arizona State Sun Devils, who continued the road woes for the Buffs last time they faced each other. Let's see how they did this time around. So it was senior night for the Buffaloes. We see Chip there. Hey, Chip. And Askia Booker saying a fond farewell to an excited Coors crowd. Sad to see him go. A couple points going on there. Oh, Kansas buzzer. There we go. I'm so sorry. Looks like he took it down the court. In one. Oh.
And now we have the Brick Baby, fan favorite of the Coors Event Center, and Xavier Johnson finding Josh Scott open, and it's a close game here. Buffs only lead by 3. Then Booker finds J40 in the paint. Big man had 14 points and 6 rebounds for the Buffs. And now we have J40 dishing it to Booker, the star of the night. He had 29 points, which would be a career high at the Coors Event Center. Now let's take a look at the box score. Colorado wins 87-81. Askia Booker, just as I said, career high at the keg, 29 points with 3 rebounds. And Shaquille McKissick, 18 points and 3 rebounds.
The victory at Coors was the last home game Colorado will play in the 2014-2015 season. Head coach Chad Boyle and Askia Booker addressed the fans for the last time at Coors Event Center after the game.
And you, man, we've got a core group. You guys are here all the time. I just want you to know how much we appreciate you and what you bring.
I want to thank you guys. You guys made this season. I know we haven't won, as much as we planned, but the bond that we have, I'll never forget, man. You guys mean the world to me. So give it up.
The Buffs continue their road trip in the Pacific Northwest. They play the Washington State Cougars tomorrow night. The last time these two teams played was in the Coors Event Center, where CU blew the Cougars out of the building. Neither of the teams come into this game with a record over 500, but both have to think about seeding in the Pac-12 tournament. Some impact players to look for is our senior Askia Booker in his final regular season game, and Josh Scott as well. And for the Cougars, keep an eye out for Devontae Lacey and forward Josh Hawkinson.
Now let's take a look at women's basketball. It's in Seattle for the conference as well, tournament facing off against USC.
USC took them to town in the previous matchups this season, so let's see if our ladies could hang with them this time around. And it's the first round of the Pac-12 tournament. Ladies are the 9th seed playing USC, who is 8th. Here we have Saborov double team finds open Haley Smith to lead all Buff scores with 16 points. And on the very next possession there, Jamie Swan with the swat. Then Brecca Thomas takes it all the way down on the fast break, and Haley Smith capitalizes with an easy 2 points there. Then we have Lexi Kressel way open from 3. Buffs increase their lead to 15, 61-46, and USC just cannot believe it. And now we have Lexi Kressel again, who drains another 3 from the corner. Buffs were rolling in this game, and that was Hartman, And USC, though, goes out like a champion. Just say congratulations, Jamie Swan. Very happy about it. And let's take a look at that box score.
Colorado walked away with a 75-63 win. Haley Smith with 16 points and 3 rebounds, where the Trojans had 18 points and 4 rebounds for Brianna Barrett.
The CU women's basketball team made their way up to Seattle this weekend to take part in the Pac-12 women's basketball tournament as the number 9 seed. The women finished 13-16 overall and 6-12 in conference play. The women were set up to play USC in the first round yesterday, and Colorado lost both of their regular season games against USC, making that 2-4 against USC since CU joined the Pac-12.
Now, as we all know, this season for Boyle and the men's basketball team, it's been a little bit of a rocky one. Alec Moylan is in the studio to answer all of your questions regarding the team and what to look for moving forward.
Hello and welcome to Buff Banner. I'm your host, Alec Moylan, and I'm here to answer your CU Sports questions. Our first question is by Sarah Evans, who asks, looking ahead to next season, which player on our men's basketball team needs to step up for us to take the next step? Well, Sarah, you probably aren't going to like my answer. One player is not going to get us to the next level unless he becomes a superstar, but I don't see that happening. For us to reach the next level, everyone needs to step up. College basketball, unlike the NBA, relies more on the whole team coming together and to play winning basketball. There isn't a James Harden available to take over the game. What plagued us this year was the consistency and effort, not a lack of talent or ability. This team needs a mental makeover. Every player on this team needs to commit to getting better and playing with everything they have every night. We have players capable of being a great team, like Josh Scott, Xavier Johnson, and Wesley Gordon. We also have promising players like Dominique Collier and Josh Fortune. With the players we have coming together as a team and becoming a team that cares about winning every time they step on the court is what's going to push us to the next level. Our next question is by Todd Roman, who asks, do you believe in Tad Boyle as head coach? Yes, Todd. We've had 2 disappointing seasons in a row, but I can honestly say I have complete confidence in Tad Boyle. You cannot deny this man's passion for winning. Coach Boyle made it mandatory this offseason for players to stay in Boulder. He changed a lot of offseason preparation in effort to improve this team. Making players stay in Boulder the whole summer is a risk. Players could get mad or just simply refuse. However, Coach doesn't care. He wants players in the program that are committed to getting better and helping this team win. Last week at practice, he said this team is a totally different team and program from years past. CU men's basketball has to prove themselves every single year. Tad Boyle wants to win by any means possible, and that's why I believe in him. That's all I have for Buff Banner. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Alec. Let's hope the Buffs surprise everyone and make a deep run in the conference tournament.
And now, Buff fans, it's time for my favorite segment when we get to learn a few viewers know a little bit of CU history. It's time for this week's trivia question. This week we would like to know, what was the first year the CU men's basketball team made it to the Final Four? Tweet your guess to @CUSM, and we'll have that answer later in the show.
After the break, we'll have an update on the Buffalo's oh-so-prestigious football team.
Also, a petitioning football player? We'll tell you who doesn't want their time at CU to end. This and more after the break.
Open for business, so step right in and create something inspiring. Be motivated, be compelled, be excited, be united, to think deeper and see farther. On the field, in the lab, above the earth, beside great minds. Create something that doesn't exist and question what does. You can, you will lead, exceed at the University of Colorado.
Inside each of us, there's a spark to push, to challenge, to lead, and create ideas that change everything. Reimagine, reinvent, rewrite the way you see the world. Achieve the unthinkable, solve the unsolvable, and create the unimaginable. Down the court, in the lab, above the earth, beside great minds, you can, you will ignite, unleash, excel at the University of Colorado.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, how was your weekend? Oh, have you studied for jogging? Oh, yeah.
Pay attention. It matters.
Buff spring football is underway and nearing an end in the next 2 weeks, but there are still important practices on the schedule. There are 2 more scrimmages in the spring on Wednesday, March 4th and 11th, and while both are closed to the public, the Buffs will be polished for your last 2 chances to see the Buffs before the fall. Practice on Saturday morning starts at 10 at the Bubble Practice Field. The final chance your Buffs is this spring game on Sunday, March 15th at Folsom Field. Kickoff is at 2 for the split squad scrimmage.
I'm not sure about that one. You know, George does such a good job on offense for us that, you know, I think that right now he's spending a little bit more time there.
I believe it's the numbers, I guess you can say. We don't have as many tight ends this spring as of right now because of injuries and things like that. We have a lot of outside backers and defensive linemen, so it's, I guess, not as much of a need for me on the defense, a lot more of a need on offense.
Football changes the lives of athletes every year, but our own Brock Anderson met up with one Buffs football player using his athletic ability to take his education to new heights.
Every athlete is motivated to overcome adversity, but it would be a challenge to find a more persistent football player than Buffs safety Jared Bell. Bell tore his ACL this past August, but he's been here before. Jared tore his other ACL 4 years ago. Though granted rarely, he's petitioning the NCAA for a 6th year of eligibility. He and the Buffs are optimistic about their chances.
You know, this is what the program was designed for students in my position who couldn't, because of physical ability, that they couldn't go out and play. So I'm really hoping they look at the medical records. And
Jared is not only working hard to get back on the field, but he's also making sure he gets the most out of his time here at CU.
Jared graduated with his sociology degree early and is now a graduate student pursuing a master's in education.
I've always had a tough time with time management. You know, I procrastinate. I put school always on the back burner, you know, and just focus on football, you know. So that's one of the biggest things. You can't procrastinate in grad school, you know. You got to maintain a certain GPA and grades to pursue and advance. So that's one thing I'm really focusing on this semester.
Dr. Susan Hopewell is one of Jared's teachers and has noticed that his work ethic extends off the field.
That he has to make his day work in ways that lots of other students couldn't even imagine.
Jared is consistently motivated by those people that he holds closest.
Well, it's really clear to me that his parents have had a huge influence on him. That has come across in his assignments. He has talked about the role of church, the role of family.
I know I have the biggest support system in the world. My family travel to every game. You know, my parents fly out here to every game, whether it's my mom, my father, my sister, or all three. So I know they've been one of my biggest motivations.
Jared wears a positive living bracelet to remind him to always stay positive and thankful throughout his recovery process.
I'm a positive guy, so I realized that I can't stay in that funk right away. So right away I knew if I wanted to play again, which I do, I had to get right back into rehab. So I come from a family of faith. My grandpa's a pastor in Pasadena, so we have a strong faith background. So I rely heavily on the Lord and prayer just to get me through these hard times.
Jared's positive attitude helps showcase his career as the perfect embodiment of a team slogan: family, future, and football. Brock Anderson, CU Sports Mag.
Bell looks to follow his father's footsteps into law enforcement after completing his master's degree.
Spring football has already started and many are looking forward to the spring game in 2 weeks. Andrew Hobner and Steve Nelson are in studio to break down the new changes and faces of Colorado football.
Have them give us a countdown. Let's roll. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? Spring is in the air. That's right. Birds are chirping. College baseball, not at CU, is playing.
Yeah.
But here at the University of Colorado, we've got football. Welcome to Sports Mag Double Team. I'm Andrew Hobner, and with me is Steve Nelson. And Steve, football's in full swing, and I don't know, I'm excited. Are you?
Well, I'm very excited, Hobbs, because this season I think is going to be the season of defense. If we take a look at some of the stats from last year, they were less than impressive. The CU defense was last in total tackles, second to last in sacks, tied for last with 3 interceptions, and in a three-way tie for last, these rankings are all among Pac-12, three-way tie for last was 0 defensive touchdowns. It was not very good in terms of defensive stats. So this year, though, we have 3 new faces on the defensive line in Jordan Carell, Jaleel Awini, and Leo Jackson that have all transferred from junior colleges to the team. This is going to let Leavitt experiment a little bit with different arrangements, whether he wants to run a 4-3, or whether he wants to run a 3-4, that being 3 linemen, 4 linebackers, or the reverse. And I think that's going to give the defense much-needed depth that's going to put pressure on the other Pac-12 offenses.
I really agree with you, Steve. And Jim Leavitt, his favorite type of defense is that 3-4. He said he's unsure what he's going to run in the spring game. He said it's going to be either a combination of a 3-4, a 4-3, or a 4-2-5, which is 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and then these 2, they call them dogs, and they're essentially strong safeties. 1 will be high, 1 will be low toward the line, and then 2 corners outside. Now, the depth that you mentioned is big because Jordan Carell comes in from American River College, first-team All-American in JUCO last year, and he is a guy that I think can bring an immediate impact to the team. Jaleel Awini is going to sit out a year because he transferred from Air Force, another D1 school. Leo Jackson is a guy who could develop, but Carell is someone they're very high on now, and it gives them a lot of depth at the D-line position, and it's actually moving some people off of the defensive line in places that they played last year.
Exactly. We have Frazier. George Frazier is actually moving off of the defense because normally he played both sides of the ball, but now because of the defensive depth, he is actually going to be exclusively on the offensive side, and I believe he is gravitating towards the position of tight end. Generally, when you have defensive build players or players who can play both sides, they go in either the fullback or the tight end position. But the fullback is kind of dying out. So I think he's going to be a great fit for tight end. He's going to be able to do receiving duties and assist the offensive line when necessary, which is really going to help the run game, which he struggled with a lot last year.
And it's funny you mentioned tight end. Actually, George Frazier, we caught up with him last Wednesday, and he actually did make note of that. He said that tight end, there's a lot of injuries to the position. There's not as much depth. They lost a couple players in the offseason, and the fact that they've added so much depth at the defensive line, he is going to focus on offense. And Brian Lindgren, who's the offensive coordinator for CU, said, selfishly, we do want him. We want him to be on our side of the ball. And Frazier is a guy who he had 3 reception touchdowns, 1 touchdown on the ground last year. He's someone who can provide some extra meat, if you will, on that offensive side of the ball. He's a tough runner. He's someone kind of built in the mold of a Christian Powell. And I think CU actually really has a good chance to have good depth this year because it's something that's plagued them for a long time. The minute one guy goes out, the whole train falls apart. So it gives them the ability to be versatile. So moving on, as we talk more about the spring game itself, is there anything that you're expecting to see or anything you're particularly excited to see as we go into the spring game?
I'm excited to see what Mac does with the quarterbacks. We got 3 great quarterbacks. I want to see what he does.
I agree, and that game will be on March 15th at Folsom Field. He's Steve Nelson. I'm Andrew Hobner. Go out, enjoy the spring, enjoy spring football, and CU. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, guys. Maybe with these changes, the Buffs can improve their scoring defense, which was second to last in the conference last season.
That's rough.
Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at the Buffs ski team before they head to the NCAA Championships next week.
And volleyball spring practice is officially underway. We'll find out what to expect this upcoming season. Don't go anywhere.
We won 24 NCAA championships, sent 18 NASA astronauts into space, inspired 4 Nobel laureates, unlocked the genetic secrets of cancer in a place that averages over 300 days of sunshine a year, ranks as America's smartest and healthiest city, and is home to the mightiest mascot in college sports. If you didn't know what the University of Colorado is all about, now you do.
Here's my nephew Scruff about to run into trouble again.
Hey, Bobo, where's your video game? In here. Well, look at this. Uh-oh, it's my dad's. You want to hold it? What'll I do?
If you get my new comic activity book, More Adventures with Scruff, you'll find out what you can do about bullies and guns. And you'll see lots of games.
Cool.
For your free copy of my new comic activity book, just write Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60652, and help take a bite out of crime.
I want it.
You know trouble can start when the clock hits 3. When there's no place after school for kids to be. Nothing to do but hanging on city streets. When mom and dad are working to make ends meet. Now it's time to beat the street.
With after-school programs, city kids aren't left alone and vulnerable. They keep on learning between 3 and 6, but these programs need your support. Join with the Urban League to keep them going. Call now, because it's
time to beat the street.
174 skiers nationwide will travel to the NCAA Skiing Championships next week, and 12 of those competitors are Colorado Buffaloes. CU is one of 8 teams to qualify a full squad of skiers for the championships in Lake Placid, with 6 in both the Nordic and Alpine divisions. This will be sophomore Jackson Hill and freshman Petra Hisikova and Ann Johnson's first showing at this competition. Senior Rune Oedegaard is going for a 4th time. The Buffs secured the 2015 RMISA Championship last weekend in Alaska and will head into next week with confidence. Rune Oedegaard is being named the RMISA Nordic MVP of the 2014-15 season. Oedegaard had a spectacular senior year, which included winning 5 races. In 4 of the other 5 races he competed in, he placed 2nd after teammate Mads Strom. Oedegaard had one of the most successful careers in CU history, having won 19 races, which is the most by any men's skier in CU history. Oedegaard will compete in the 2015 NCAA National Championships in Lake Placid, New York from March 11th to the 14th.
Exciting news in volleyball this season. Spring practice finally began this past Thursday. As for how the Buffs will do against CSU, Coach Liz Kratza says part of practice will be the men's ability to remain flexible this season. The Buffs are working up towards a match against UNC on April 16th at 6 p.m. Saturday afternoon, CSU's track and field athletes recorded 5 sub-8-minute times at the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation Indoor Track and Field Championships. Congrats to senior Jake Hirsch, juniors Morgan Pearson, Aymar Musa, and Pierce Murphy, and sophomore Ben Sorrell for accomplishing a great feat. Morgan Peterson led the Buffs and placed overall 3rd, placing him 4th on CU's all-time performances list. He is currently listed as 10th in the NCAA.
Well, Buff fans, it's time for this week's edition of Woes and Woes. Now, if you know the segment, then you know that the first woe, spelled W-O-A-H, is to describe a great play or something that was amazing. And this week, CU women's lacrosse team made my jaw drop with their victory over Presbyterian this last Monday. They laid the hammer on them from beginning to the very end. They went into halftime with a 12-0 lead and poured in 7 more throughout the rest of the game. It was their first shutout in the team's history, making everybody step back and say, whoa. Now our woe, or the word used to describe a play or something that was disappointing, goes to none other than the so-called faithful C unit. Why, you ask? For the poor showing at senior night. Askia Booker deserved nothing less than a roaring standing ovation from his fellow students, and after everything he's done for this program over the last 4 years, the C unit can't find time to grace the team with an appearance. We will always remember Ski for hitting the buzzer against Kansas. My only wish is that he had a full house to see him make his final exit out of Coors Event Center.
I agree with you, Joey. Coming up next, we'll reveal the trivia answer that you all have been racking your brain to find.
And it's everyone's favorite segment, Rapid Fire, with the one, the only, Tommy Wood.
Man, I wish I had some sports to report on. Oh wait, I do. It's Rapid Fire, coming up next.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
nutrition can lead to great things. Find out how a healthy lifestyle can help your child succeed.
Let's sit down for a second, okay, sweetie?
Hey, Kayla, there's Mary from your class.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Kayla. Come and play.
Oh, sweetie, sweetie. Why don't you go play with those kids over there?
Why?
Imagine the power of one voice. Find yours at freedomcenter.org.
We at Sportsmag have pride like a buffalo and want all of you at home to have that same pride for all of our athletic teams, no matter how much it hurts sometimes. But we have Tommy Wood in studio to reveal upcoming CU sporting events.
Hey Buff fans, I'm Tommy Wood and this is another lightning fast edition of Rapid Fire, so let's get to it. CU women's basketball starts us off in the second round of the Pac-12 tournament. After defeating USC last night 75-63, the Buffs move on to the next round where they will play number 1 seeded Oregon State. Good luck, ladies. Saturday, men's basketball will be in Pullman, Washington to face the Washington State Cougars. This is the last game for Colorado before they head to Las Vegas for the men's tournament next week. That same day, women's tennis will take the court to play Stanford. The Buffs have been strong on the clay this year and are looking to continue their fine form. Finally, the day all football fans have been waiting for, the spring game. March 15th at Folsom Field. It'll be a great time to see the new defense that coordinator Jim Leavitt is rolling out. That game will be on Pac-12 Network, but make sure to go out there and see the game for yourself. That's all we have for Rapid Fire. I'm Tommy Wood. Back to you at the desk.
It's that time again, trivia time. Unfortunately, we aren't going to ask you another question, but it's okay if you missed our little history moment, because earlier we wanted to know what was the first year CU men's basketball team made to the Final Four. And the answer is, drumroll please, Joey, 1942. So I hope you guys send in your answers, and that's all I have for you.
Well, it's once again time to shower the show with little glimmers we have found on social media. So instead of a regular tweet of the week, we're having a flashback Friday to simpler times. You know, before we really knew the outcome of what this season would be. August 1st, Josh Scott tweeted, "We out here putting in work, flexing for the one time." Well, Josh, thanks for the positive vibes. Unfortunately, your flexing didn't move over to the court this season, but thank goodness Dom Caprice didn't make an appearance either.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of Sports Mag. I'm Megan Marquette.
And I'm Joey Prechtel. Have a great, fun-filled weekend, Buffs fans.